and Juszczyk gets a big play off of it.
Handoff here. It's most.
Winning a Super Bowl is the pinnacle of every NFL player's career. But winning Super Bowl MVP, well, that's the kind of honor that cements your legacy forever. It's what separates a great performance from an all-time moment, ensuring your name is etched into history alongside the legends like Joe Montana, Tom Brady, and Jerry Rice. But let's be honest, sometimes the voters get it completely wrong. Whether it was a quarterback getting the award by default, a defensive player being overlooked, or just pure incompetence from the decision makers, there have been plenty of Super Bowl MVP snubs over the years. So today, we're taking a look back at 10 NFL players who got robbed of Super Bowl MVP honors. Guys who absolutely deserved the trophy, but instead had to settle for just a ring. So let's get right into it.
Manning. Pass might have been tipped.
Super Bowl 54, Damien Williams, RB, Kansas City Chiefs. When all was said and done in Miami, the setting of Super Bowl 54, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs had their first Super Bowl win in 50 years. A monumental accomplishment, no doubt. And, well, it was no shock when Patrick Mahomes was handed the MVP trophy, if for no other reason than the narrative itself. I mean, after all, the league had been dying to crown him, and once the Chiefs won, yeah, it just sort of felt like a far-gone conclusion. Especially with Brady sliding out of the spotlight, the NFL really needed a new star to tout. The problem? Well, Damien Williams was kind of the real MVP in this game. Every time the Chiefs needed a big play, their journeyman running back came up huge for them. And he had some really impressive counting numbers too. Williams dominated on the ground and through the air, rushing for 104 yards and a touchdown while adding 29 receiving yards and another score. And when the Chiefs needed one final dagger to seal the game, it was Williams who broke free for a 38-yard touchdown, officially putting San Francisco away. Yeah, Mahomes played alright, but when you factor in his 2 interceptions and inconsistent play through the first 3 quarters, and of course the overall stat line of 26 completions on his 42 passes for 286 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, all while rushing for another 29 yards and a touchdown, I don't know, it just wasn't exactly screaming MVP-level dominance. Let's face it, if it was any other player at quarterback, Williams would have been a lock for the award. But instead, Mahomes got the nod, while Williams just had to settle for being a footnote in history. Super Bowl 48, Cam Chancellor, safety, Seattle Seahawks. While Malcolm Smith took home MVP honors for his 69-yard pick six and a fumble recovery, which was a nice story, we shouldn't kid ourselves like the voters did. The fact of the matter is, it was the Seattle's D that dominated and won this game. And while you can't give the award to an entire unit, the voters could have done better. Therefore, they could have just given it to the linchpin of the Legion of Boom, who was safety Cam Chancellor. From the first snap, Chancellor was everywhere, playing safety at a level that we frankly may never see ever again. The man could fly downhill to destroy Denver's running backs and receivers with the best of them. And he posted an impressive stat line himself, finishing with 10 tackles, 2 deflections, and an interception, setting the tone for one of the most lopsided Super Bowls that we've ever seen. It's hard to pick a single guy from the Seahawks' 43-8 destruction to the Broncos, but with the way the Legion of Boom behind Seattle's pass rush just took control of the game from the beginning, and his individual performance, this one should have gone to Chancellor, no doubt about it. Super Bowl 35, Jamal Lewis, RB, Baltimore Ravens. Look, Ray Lewis winning MVP made sense on the surface. The 2000 Ravens had one of the best defenses ever, and Lewis was the leader of that unit. But if we're talking about actual impact on the game itself, well, the MVP should have gone to Jamal Lewis. But Baltimore's offense that season, the Super Bowl included, was painfully one-dimensional. After all, Trent Dilfer was their quarterback, and thus they relied on Lewis to carry the load in the big game, and, well, he delivered 102 rushing yards and a touchdown on 27 carries, grinding out the clock while the Ravens' defense suffocated New York. Meanwhile, Ray Lewis didn't force a single turnover, didn't have a sack, and wasn't even the most statistically dominant player on his own defense. The MVP voters gave it to him because it just fit the narrative. But looking back, it was Jamal Lewis. He was the reason that Baltimore kept moving chains offensively and the more deserving player. Super Bowl 3, Matt Snell, RB, New York Jets. Everyone remembers Joe Namath's "I guarantee it" speech before Super Bowl 3. And sure, he backed it up by leading the Jets to an iconic 16-7 win over the heavily favored Baltimore Colts, so naturally, he won Super Bowl MVP. But But when you really look back at the game tape, Matt Snell was the actual reason that the Jets won that game. Namath didn't even throw a touchdown. The Jets offense stopped passing altogether in the fourth quarter, choosing instead to bleed the clock with Snell. Namath literally did not throw a single pass. Meanwhile, Snell finished with 30 carries for 121 yards and a touchdown, along with 40 receiving yards. Against a Baltimore defense that had been the best in the league, Snell just ran through them all game long. Namath certainly made history with his bold prediction, and we're sure he had fun celebrating on Broadway afterwards. But on the field, man, Snell was the real MVP. Super Bowl 31, Reggie White, DL, Green Bay Packers. Yes, Desmond Howard's 99-yard kickoff return touchdown was a game changer. And yes, his return numbers were absolutely incredible. But was he really the most valuable player in Super Bowl 31? No, not a snowball's chance. Without a doubt, that honor belonged to Reggie White, plain and simple. I mean, you have to think that even if Howard wasn't in there returning kicks, that Green Bay would have still found a way to generate enough offense to complement their star defensive player's performance. I mean, White wrecked New England's offensive line all night long, recording 3 sacks and collapsing the pocket on nearly every drop back. The Packers defense smothered Drew Bledsoe, with White being at the epicenter of that chaos. Yeah, sure, Howard was great, but when the game needed to be put away, it was White's back-to-back sacks in the fourth quarter that officially slammed that door shut. Super Bowl 42, Justin Tuck, DL, New York Giants. Eli Manning got the Super Bowl MVP for leading the ultimate underdog story, but come on, let's be real here. Justin Tuck was the real reason that the Giants did America a favor and pulled off the upset of the century against the 18-0 Patriots. We all remember David Tyree's helmet catch, but here's what gets lost in the history books. Tom Brady spent the entire game running for his life. The Patriots' record-breaking offense, the one that looked unstoppable all year long, was completely neutralized. And Tuck was the focal point, despite much of the attention being put on Michael Strahan in his final year as a pro. It was Tuck, though. 2 sacks, 2 QB hits, and 2 tackles for loss. His impact cannot be overstated. He caused absolute chaos week in and week out. Tuck didn't just pressure Brady, he bullied him all night long, collapsing the pocket, wrecking New England's blocking schemes, and forcing the greatest quarterback of all time into a consistent state of panic. For years, people wondered how to beat Tom Brady, and in Super Bowl 42, Tuck wrote the blueprint: unrelenting pressure. Manning had his moments. He made a few clutch throws, but without Tuck dominating the trenches, there is no upset, no helmet catch, no 18-1. The Giants won that Super Bowl in the trenches, and Tuck should have been the one holding that MVP trophy. Super Bowl 51, James White, RB, New England Patriots. 28-3. I know the story, you know the story, we all know the story. Tom Brady and the Patriots pulled off the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history, storming back to beat the Falcons in overtime. And of course, Brady won MVP, which, given the Deflategate storyline, is actually kind of surprising. You have to think that Goodell was desperate to find someone else to claim the honors. But in the very end, it was what would have otherwise been expected, and it went to Brady. Though, if we're being completely honest, this award should have gone to James White. White had 14 receptions for 110 yards, a Super Bowl record. He also ran for 29 yards and 2 touchdowns, including the game-winning score in overtime. He converted a critical 2-point conversion, made huge plays in the passing game, and was Brady's go-to guy the entire second half. Even Brady himself admitted that White should have won MVP, and gave him the truck that he was awarded. But alas, the voters defaulted to the quarterback, completely ignoring White's record-breaking performance. Super Bowl 4, Otis Taylor, WR, Kansas City Chiefs. Len Dawson may have gotten the MVP nod, but let's be honest, this was a team win in every sense of the word. Dawson was fine, efficient, sure, but nothing about his 142-yard, 1-touchdown performance screamed Super Bowl MVP, especially when you add his interception into the equation. Honestly, looking back, if any offensive player deserved the award, it was Otis Taylor. Taylor was the most explosive player on the field, hauling in 6 catches for 81 yards, including the defining moment of the game, a 46-yard touchdown that officially put the Vikings away in the third quarter. It wasn't just a deep ball, it was a statement, a broken tackle, full-speed sprint to the end zone that slammed the door on Minnesota's comeback hopes. Kansas City's defense could have easily gotten a collective MVP, but if the voters were set on picking an offensive player, Taylor was kind of the obvious choice here. Dawson managed the game. Taylor ended it, and accounted for a lot of Dawson's production in the process. Super Bowl 15, Rod Martin, LB, Oakland Raiders. 3 interceptions in a Super Bowl by a linebacker. That's not just impressive, that's downright historic. And yet, somehow, Rod Martin did not win Super Bowl MVP. Instead, the honor went to Jim Plunkett, who threw 3 touchdowns in the Raiders' 27-10 win over the Eagles. Now, Plunkett played very well, but come on, let's be real. He wasn't exactly lighting it up. He finished with just 261 passing yards and completed only 13 passes. Meanwhile, Martin was single-handedly wrecking Philly's offense, making life miserable for Ron Jaworski and coming away with 3 of the biggest momentum-swinging plays of the game and notching 5 solo tackles in addition to his 3 interceptions. Not to mention that the Raiders scored 10 of their 27 points off his picks. When you are the only player ever to do something in a Super Bowl, and that mark is just about impossible to match, yeah, I think that's MVP material. Especially when you factor in the fact that Plunkett was largely capitalizing on the field position that he helped set up. And of course, that porous Philadelphia defense. Super Bowl 11, Clarence Davis, RB, Oakland Raiders. Fred Biletkinov won Super Bowl 11 MVP honors. But come on, let's be honest. Running back Clarence Davis was the guy actually carrying the Raiders offense that day. And really, looking back, while Biletkinov was a Hall of Famer, this particular showdown was not particularly close. It was on Davis's back that Oakland was able to steam Minnesota 32-14, finally breaking through for their first Super Bowl win after years of playoff heartbreak. And while Biletkinov made some clutch catches, his stat line was not exactly jaw-dropping. 4 receptions for 79 yards. Solid, sure, but not exactly MVP-worthy. Meanwhile, Clarence Davis was absolutely unstoppable. The Raiders leaned on him all game, and he shredded the Vikings defense, rushing for 137 yards on just 16 carries. An absurd 8.6 yards per attempt. Every time he touched the ball, he was moving the chains. He was keeping the Raiders offense rolling while Minnesota had no answer. Biletkinov was the big name, sure, and he made a couple of big plays, but Davis was the engine of that offense. If the MVP had gone to the most dominant player on the field, as it should have, Davis would have been the one holding that trophy. No doubt about that. But hey, which NFL player do you think was most robbed of Super Bowl MVP honors? Who do you think we were right on? Who do you think we were wrong about? Was there anyone that we may have missed? Let us know in the comments section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, then clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.